2023. The new year began on the first day of the week, a Sunday, first day of the month, and of course, the first day of the year. We started our first day with the blessings of Satguru Mata Sudiksha Ji Maharaj and Raj Pitaji in virtual congregation, and then received blessings in our local congregations. So, sure enough, I started my new year with a lot of blessings and renewed energy. And in just a few days, I found myself back into the usual rut of life.
Calendars, schedule, meetings, appointments. This is what life revolves around today. Not only am I gradually disconnecting from the renewed energy, but I also find it hard to understand other people's viewpoint. Maybe our intellect just programs us to think that way. My vision only lets me see things in a certain way. If I change my viewpoint though, I will start seeing things from others' perspective.
Right.
This is the topic of our New Year's Soul Vibes episode. Today, we will talk about balancing EQ, emotional quotient, with IQ, intelligence quotient.
Let me first wish you all a very happy new year. I am Sona Ramchandani from Connecticut, and with me today is Datta Korde ji, my co-host from New Jersey.
Sant Nirankari.
Soul Vibes.
We are bringing you this New Year's first Soul Vibes episode from USA. Datta ji, IQ, EQ, what is this, and why do we even take this journey?
Sonaji, we humans are emotional creatures because of how we were made by Nirankar. Everything we perceive via our five senses travels first to that part of our brain which processes emotions before it reaches the part of the brain that makes rational decisions. This is the reason why we experience emotions before rational thinking kicks in.
Ah, that does make sense.
In today's day and age, those who have practiced and worked hard to train themselves to manage their own emotions, understand other people's emotions, and then respond accordingly have become peaceful and happy in all facets of life, whether it's at work, at home, or even at their place of worship. Let me share something that happened with me a few years ago. I was traveling for work and our flight was delayed for several hours due to bad weather.
Oh.
All the passengers were asked to speak with the airline's rep if they wanted to change their flights. I got in line and I had about 8 passengers ahead of me. I noticed that almost every passenger either spoke in an irritated tone or outright anger with the airline representative. I was quietly observing that despite all the emotional outbursts being directed towards her, this lady remained calm and patient.
Wow.
She would listen to the passengers' frustration and help them. When my turn came, I could not hold my curiosity any longer. I asked her, all these people were practically yelling at you, but you kept your cool. And in fact, you kept helping them. How did you do that? She looked up, she smiled and said, "Sir, in my profession, this happens a lot.
So true.
Over time, I have learned to understand and empathize with our passengers. They may be trying to get back to their loved ones. Someone may be trying to get to an interview which is going to change their life. And for others, it may be a long-awaited vacation. It's important that I empathize with them and then help them in every possible way." This lady had clearly learned the art of managing IQ and EQ. It's due to this reason that EQ, the capability to recognize and manage our emotions while we appreciate other people's emotions, has become a bigger factor influencing success as compared to IQ.
That does make sense, Dattaji. IQ, which stands for Intelligence Quotient, measures our ability to solve problems, use logic, and grasp or communicate complex ideas. While EQ, which stands for Emotional Quotient, measures our ability to recognize emotions in ourselves and others, and to use that awareness to guide our decisions.
That makes sense.
We are, however, so focused on our intellect that we often forget to use our emotions, which connects us with one another. Today, Satguru Mata Sudiksha Ji Maharaj is molding us to use our emotional side just like our intellect.
Well, you've hit the nail on its head, Sonaji. We have entered this new year, but we have also carried a lot of problems and issues with us from the previous year. And the root cause of most of these issues lies on our over-reliance on IQ. For example, look at the conflicts that are happening around the world today. If the warring parties could balance IQ and EQ, they would be able to empathize with the other party better.
Right.
And as such, there will develop an opportunity to resolve conflicts peacefully as compared to the need for using weapons of mass destruction. That's why I do think that there is a great need to create this balance between IQ and EQ.
So true, Dattaji. There is an aspect I'd like to highlight here.
Sure, go ahead.
This journey is journey for me and not for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
In all her recent discourses, Satguru Mataji was reminding us to work on ourselves versus teaching others. I should work on myself to make my life better each day. Only if I eat food will I benefit from it. Simply talking about food with others will not satisfy my hunger. Simply narrating benefits of water will never quench my thirst. I need to drink that glass of water.
That does make sense.
In the same way, I have to become introspective. I need to look inwards and find out, am I able to relate to others' emotions? Am I able to put myself in others' shoes? Am I able to put my selfish desires prompted by my IQ aside and care for others? Also, my actions should be aligned with Satguru Mataji's teachings all the time, not just when I'm in congregation or in company of saints. My behavior should be the same with my colleagues and people who I interact with every single day. At least that should be my goal.
Beautifully articulated, Sonaji. Let's talk about what is stopping us from creating this balance. When I look at my own life, up until 95-96, when I was not blessed with this divine knowledge, I used to firmly believe that my identity is this body, my mind and intellect. I would rely firmly and completely on my IQ because my entire existence revolved around me, my ego. But then Sadguru came in my life and she blessed me with this divine knowledge. And once I understood that knowledge, in an instant, that illusion was shattered.
Wow.
I realized that my identity, your identity, and everyone's identity is this divine consciousness that resides in all of us.
Right.
Equipped with that realization, an awareness dawned on me that you and I, we may dress differently, we may eat differently, we may speak different languages, and yet we are all reflection of the same divine Nirankar. When I realized how I am connected to you, suddenly your happiness brought me joy, while your pain, that brought tears to my eyes. Now, if this isn't EQ or empathy, then what is?
So true.
It's Sadguru, though, who is needed to bless us with this divine knowledge so that we can become more empathetic and create this balance between IQ and EQ.
Dattaji, this makes so much sense. But how do I make this practical?
Well, to make this practical, we must learn to rise above our ego, which forces us to concentrate only on our personal desires. Let me share something that happened with me a few weeks ago.
Please do, Dattaji.
Saints of New Jersey branch had volunteered at the community food bank. Here, one of the employees, her name was Karen, she was guiding us during the entire exercise. I noticed that apart from guiding us, she was doing a lot of other activities which involved intense physical labor. It was not an easy job. On our way out, I thanked her for guiding us, and out of curiosity, I asked her, Karen, do you like this job? Without skipping a beat, she said, I love this job. I was surprised to hear this response. She did not say, I like this job. She said, I love this job.
Right.
To like something, that's rational, that's IQ. But to love something, that's emotional, that's EQ. So I asked her, Karen, why do you love your job? Her response was amazing. She said, I love this job because here we are on a mission to feed those kids in New Jersey who are forced to go hungry due to their economic situation. When you have a mission like that, you do love your job. Her words reminded me of Baba Hardev Singh Ji Maharaj's message. Work for a cause, not applause. Karen was not just working for a paycheck, she was on a mission to help others. Right there was a perfect example of IQ and EQ in balance. I learned a lot from Karen that day.
Dattaji, thank you so much for sharing that experience. Let's now bring in our first panelist on today's session,
Soul vibes.
Sonali Kumarji from Fort Lauderdale. So Sonali ji, I hear you are into cancer research, huh?
Yes, Sonaji, thank you so much for having me here today. I did my undergrad in biology and planned on pursuing a career in optometry, but for whatever reason, I didn't get accepted into the program. Eventually, a great opportunity came up as a data manager at the Cancer Institute in DC. A few years later, I applied to the University of Miami's Cancer Center as well as the Eye Institute. Even though 90% of my career has been in the field of ophthalmology, I ended up getting the position at the Cancer Center as a research coordinator.
Wow, God has his own plans.
Exactly. There is a reason why Nirankari kept bringing me back into the cancer research field. Fast forward a year into the job, we found out that a young saint in our Sangat was diagnosed with cancer. This saint had a very rare tumor, and there's only one doctor in the country who specializes in this particular tumor, and he happens to work at the University of Miami. The saint was aware that I also worked there, so she asked me if I knew him. I said yes, he's the main doctor on our team, and I work very closely with him. It was then that I realized that Nirankari's every move is very well calculated. Nirankari, being the doer, placed me in this specific team so the saint can receive the help that was needed.
Wow.
The whole team presented the case to the tumor board and came up with the best possible treatment. In less than a year, she's now cancer-free.
Wow, Sonali ji, this is so incredible. You are making difference in so many lives.
No, Sonaji. In my field, not every outcome is positive. There are times where patients don't make it. I can sit here and think that because of my intelligence, the saint was able to get the proper treatment she needed. But in reality, I didn't do anything. I'm so blessed that Nirankari chose my body to do his work. When dealing with so many patients in the medical field with such serious conditions, you tend to become numb to their pain and emotions. But when experiencing this situation with a loved one, you have a different perspective. I was able to feel those emotions and empathize with her. This experience taught me how to use both my intelligence and emotions. Nirankari chooses our path for us and uses our body to do the seva, as long as we surrender ourselves and welcome Nirankari in our lives to work through us. Nirankari knew I needed that experience and groomed me so I can continue serving the patients with the balance between IQ and EQ.
Sonali ji, I am so touched with your story. Thank you for sharing it and joining us today.
Soul vibes.
Dattaji, I am sure you'll agree with me that as we change, we can motivate and introduce change in others too.
Absolutely.
We don't need 100 matches to light up 100 candles. All we need is one. If I've seen this divine light, it is not just for me to keep. It's for me to shine in its glory. And that glory reflects in my behavior as to how I treat people that I'm not emotionally attached to. Baba Hardev Singh Ji once said, हमें कोई छोटा तब नजर आता है जब हम उन्हें दूर से या गुरूर से देखते हैं. Which means we look down upon others only when we are looking at them from a distance or under the influence of ego. Again, when ego creeps in, that stops our transition into EQ.
Absolutely, Sonaji. Sonaji, we also have a second guest panelist with us today. Please do join me in welcoming Dr. Sandhish Sethi ji, who is a resident physician from Connecticut. Sandhish ji, would you like to share with us your experience in America so far?
Dhanankar to all our listeners. I am Sandhish. I was born and raised in northern India. I did my MBBS from AIIMS and then moved to States to pursue residency in internal medicine at University of Yale, Connecticut. You know, when I came to States for the first time, I noticed how every household has a temperature regulator to control the internal temperature of the building. Whenever there is a variation in outside temperature, be it during a snowfall or in the peak of summer season, one would just go to the regulator and adjust to keep the inside moderate and comfortable.
Yep, that's right.
This made me wonder how easy my life will become if I can also have a regulator in my heart to stabilize the emotional turmoil within me and to keep my internal state constant even during the times when my external situations vary.
That would have been so good.
And when I was sharing this thought with one of the saints, he further added, he said, today digital technology has advanced so much that we don't even need to go to the regulator to adjust the temperature. Rather, it senses my pattern and adjusts the temperature on its own to keep the inside moderate.
True.
And what better regulator we have than this constant remembrance of Almighty Nirankar
Wow.
that keeps me in a constant state of bliss and contentment. It is also beautifully written, जैसी सोच होती है वैसा ही मंजर होता है, असल मौसम तो मेरे दिल के अंदर होता है, यूं ही अपने मिजाज को चिड़चिड़ा न कीजिए, अगर कोई बात छोटी कह जाए तो अपना दिल बड़ा कीजिए.
Wow.
Whatever we see, or in other words, our perspective is the manifestation of our thoughts. The real climate is not the one outside, but the one within ourselves. One should not get grumpy over the pity talks, rather be broad-minded and carry a big heart.
Well said, Sandhishji. Well, before we started recording, you were talking with us about the importance of EQ in your professional life as a doctor. If you don't mind, can you please share that with our larger audience also?
Sure, Dattaji. During my last few years in learning medicine and interacting with so many patients, I have realized that even if we only listen to the patients with empathy and a non-judgmental stance, half of their problem gets solved.
Oh, that's interesting.
I remember rotating in a psychology clinic where we had this patient with abdominal pain from many years.
Oh.
She got all relevant investigations done, including the MRI, which was also normal. However, when we asked her how her mood has been, shockingly, she immediately started crying and expressed that she has been feeling very sad and has been living in a very tough home situations. After the complete session, she also expressed that she has no one to share her emotions or feelings, and she felt so relieved to have vented out. That was the time when I learned about the concept of brain-gut axis, how our emotions, how our thoughts can present as a bodily symptoms, and how important is to be that person who can listen and acknowledge someone's emotions.
Wow. So what you're saying is that when you and your team of doctors used your EQ, when you listened to her with empathy, when you combined your EQ with your IQ, you were able to find a solution to her long-standing problem?
Exactly.
Wow. That is so insightful. Thanks a lot, Sandhishji, for joining us today and sharing your experiences with us.
Thanks to you, Ji, for having me here.
Soul vibes.
Sonaji, clearly we have established that we need to start working on creating this balance between IQ and EQ. But here is the situation at hand for me now. After being blessed with this divine knowledge, theoretically I did understand the need for this balance between IQ and EQ. But now I need to walk this path. I need to imbibe this divine knowledge and live it. We are all surrounded by this illusory material world which has a way of making me forget my true nature and once again get entangled in the body-mind-intellect complex. And as such, I start behaving once again under the influence of my ego. I had once read that the sign of a God-realized soul is that when they close their eyes, they are peaceful. There is no mental conflict that keeps them awake. And when they open their eyes, they have the attitude of, how can I help you?
Wow.
Reaching this stage though is not easy. We have the knowledge, the gyan, but to live that knowledge day to day, that's wisdom. So how do I find this wisdom, Sonaji?
Well, Dattaji, the good news is science has now proved that just like IQ, our EQ is not set in stone either. It can be enhanced with conscious efforts.
Oh, okay.
We can also live a life full of wisdom if we follow Brahmagyan, that is, God knowledge. Satguru blessed us with 3 tools to stay on the path of spirituality, and they are Seva, selfless service, Satsang, divine congregation, and Simran, remembrance of Nirankar. Every time I'm doing selfless seva, I am taming and controlling my ego. Every moment I spend in the company of God-realized saints in congregation, I get the opportunity to refresh the divine knowledge and take inspirations from the lives of all the saints. And finally, but the most importantly, when I do Simran, I am one with this Nirankar, so that I can live a saintly life in this materialistic world.
Wow. Sadguru has not just blessed us with this divine knowledge, she has also equipped us with the tools needed to walk this path.
Right.
I am reminded of these lines from Holy Avatar Vani, where Shahenshah Ji is guiding us by saying, Sabar se dagda chola hove, tera ek sahara rahe, sadhu reh ke duniya andar, wang kamal de nyara rahe. A saint wears the robe of patience and perseverance and depends only on Nirankar's support alone. Such a saint lives in this world the way a lotus remains aloft in water.
Absolutely, Dattaji. In conclusion, Satguru Mata Sudiksha Ji Maharaj taught us during Delhi Samagam and now for the Maharashtra Samagam also that spirituality and humanity go hand in hand.
Yes, Ruhaniyat or Insaniyat sang sang.
Right. Let's pray in the holy feet of Satguru Mata Sudiksha Ji Maharaj to bless us so that our EQ and IQ go hand in hand.
Dhan Nirankar Ji.